The world is really big. And oftentimes we forget how big the world is because we're stuck in our own little cocoons and our own little bubbles. But there are millions and billions of people outside of our own little states and countries that we live in that occupy the world. They all make decisions. They all have jobs. They all have to eat. They all consume content. And as a result of that, if you are a business in the 21st century, especially in 2023, you have to communicate the value of your business to all these different consumer segmentations that exist across the world. Recently, I just got a post sent to me by someone who follows my content on Twitter. And this was a really interesting post because when I clicked on the link, it led me to a Swedish website. Now, I'm pretty busy throughout the day. I surf a lot of different websites, use a lot of different apps, but I don't really use any Swedish websites. And that's because I don't speak Swedish and I don't live in Sweden. Shout out to Aaron Lindman. Thank you so much for this link. It was really cool. This is a Palantir press piece that was done in Sweden on a website called svtplay.se. This is what the website looks like. So this is the link that he sent me. And when I clicked on this video, you get a 2-minute segment with Palantir's Alex Karp speaking to the Swedish press. Now, when I Googled SVT on Google, I got SVT Play, which is SVT Swedish Television. And it says SVT, or Sveriges Television, is a Swedish public service television company with the widest ranges of programming of all TV companies in Sweden. Now, if we take a look at some of their traffic, this website gets 31.8 million visits a month. That is a lot of people coming to this website to consume content. And as a result of that, this website has an audience, which is why Palantir has chosen to do a press piece with them. In this video, you will see Palantir's Alex Karp talk to the Swedish press and the Swedish media, and they'll be covering what's been going on with Ukraine and Palantir. I thought this was really fascinating because it gave an analysis of Palantir as a company from, a perspective that we don't get to see all the time, which is the Swedish media. And also, it was not in English, so me and my editor, shout out to Tristan, we did a little bit of work to try to translate it the best we can, and we think it's pretty accurate based on what we saw. So the captions that you will see in the video are translated to English. They were not translated. They were actually translated in Swedish, so we had to do a little bit of digging, but we got it done. I'll be analyzing the video as it plays and after it plays. Hope you guys enjoy. This is Palantir on SVT Television in Sweden. Now, before I get into this video, really quickly, link in the description, dailypalantir.com/subscribe. I am the only person on the planet that's running a daily Palantir newsletter that gives you 5 updates every day around 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern on what's happening in the world of Palantir. You should subscribe to it if you watch my videos, if you're a subscriber of my channel, if you care at all about Palantir and you don't care about one email notification every single day for, as long as I cover the company, which is going to be a long time. If you are planning to invest in this company for a long time, you should stop the video, subscribe down below. It is free. It will always be free. And then come back to the video. Thank you guys. Let's get into it.
І зараз роль безпілотних технологій, інтелектуальної розвідки є дуже важливою. І це також окремий трек нашої роботи.
That's a separate track in our work.
Тому що зараз ми будуємо екосистему розвитку military-tech-технологій в Україні.
Dels finns det ett renodlat cyberkrig när man saboterar fiendens uppkopplade civila och militära infrastruktur. Men också ett digitalt krig där databehandling med hjälp av artificiell intelligens kan ge ett viktigt övertag i strid. Och Ukrainas IT-minister är här i Davos samtidigt som ett amerikanskt företag som levererar sådana system till den ukrainska militären. Hi, Alexander Nord, Swedish TV.
Hi, Alex Karp. Now, I can tell you something shocking that the world.
Alex Karp är medgrundare och vd för techbolaget Palantir, som är känt, eller ökänt, beroende på vem man frågar, för att jobba med amerikanska säkerhetstjänster. Med teknik som nu testas militärt i Ukraina.
The Ukrainians, who are the most interesting and talented among engineers in the world, took the product we had built for the US military and found ways to use it in accordance with other allies to more effectively target their adversary.
Palantir har även civila kunder, men det Karp helst pratar om är de myndigheter som nyttjar deras system för databehandling.
This product has stopped major terror attacks multiple times every year. And I believe one of the things I'm most proud about is if those terror attacks had happened, you would have a far-right governance in every single country in Europe and especially in the Nordics.
Företaget har kontor i Sverige, Även om han inte säger det rakt ut, låter han förstå att det inte bara är privata företag på den svenska kundlistan.
Let me tell you the value add in Sweden. Your government would be even further to the right if it was not for the products, our products.
You have clients both in the public sector and the private sector. Where do you draw the line whom you work with and deliver to?
From the inception, it was controversial. We decided never to work into China, never to work in Russia. There's a gray zone, like places where they're allied with the West in America, where we have long debates, but we work in every country in the West.
They're being stuck with me.
All right, there we go. That was a Swedish media piece on Palantir and Alex Karp. For those that have seen Alex Karp many times, we saw him in his kind of natural element of being who he is, talking the way he talks. Couple points of analysis on this. So first, the media side of it, and then I want to talk about one of the things Alex Karp actually said in this video that doesn't get enough attention, I believe, from the Palantir community in terms of like understanding a little bit of the nuances from a philosophical perspective about what it means for a country to become more right-wing and the nature of Palantir's products stopping that from happening. So first of all, the media piece. I think this is a good thing. I think Palantir is branching out and trying to do media in a different way. When you're a company like Palantir, you need your brand to be known. At the end of the day, like, it's B2B sales. It's not sexy. It's not fun. It's not consumers. People need to know who you are. You need to get into a meeting with C-suite executives. They need to have some understanding of what you do so that you can walk them through the sales process. You're either going to get people like you got at the WEF that confronted Alex Karp and basically said, hey, every software I've tried has failed. I Googled you guys. You guys were too good to be true. Like, what's the catch? And then Karp kind of sells them in that moment and says, well, we're expensive. That's kind of the catch. Or you get people that have a little bit of understanding of who you are, and you've got to do a better job of ultimately selling them on the deal. You either have people that are super frustrated, or you have people that kind of know who you are, and then, you know, that entails with the sales process. In both of those scenarios, if you are more known, whether it's through a Google search or whether it's because someone saw you in a Wall Street Journal ad or on a Swedish television network, that means you have a better chance of closing deals. Everything in life, I have recognized as a startup founder myself, aldia.io, you can check it out in the description, is all about attention. That's it. It's all about attention. Can you harness people's attention? Can you control that attention? And can you convert that attention in an authentic way? Authenticity is the biggest part. Can you actually authentically convert that attention in a way that is profitable for you and your business, that allows you to grow, that allows you to get more influence, etc.? And so I think it's great that Palantir is doing more press pieces outside of, you know, the United States, because they're trying to compete in the international markets, and they need to get those consumers and those people that make those decisions, especially the C-suites and the government officials, to know who they are. So this is a great thing. Second thing I want to talk about from this video, Palantir's Alex Karp says later towards the end of the video, your government, Sweden, would be more right-wing if Palantir's products had not been adopted. What does that mean? This is something Karp has talked about many times that I think people really don't think about a lot, or they forget to sort of analyze, which is that when he means right wing, he means authoritarian at the end of the day. He's not saying it in the traditional left versus right in terms of like how we think about it in the United States. He's just talking about a much more authoritarian country that does more things to their citizens, and that takes away from some of those, as we in the Western world like to call them, inalienable rights. Now, why does Palantir stop that? Why does Palantir have the ability to actually make a government not become more authoritarian? If we can agree on the assumption that authoritarianism is bad and violating individual rights and dignity and freedoms are bad, how does Palantir stop that? Palantir has talked many times about the divide between what a government needs to do to maintain its monopoly on power versus what technology companies can allow in order for the government to not have as much power. What I mean by this is when 9/11 happened, the government became more of a surveillance state. It became more authoritarian. To get on a plane, you had more restrictions. Why? Because in the name of safety, which in the context of 9/11, I believe was the right argument, but this is the argument that gets manipulated many times. In the name of safety, the government said, we are now going to do more things to surveil you. And a lot of times, you know, if you've ever dug into the history of the Patriot Act, that entire assumption has been used to literally profile people and torture them to death, even though they did nothing wrong. And so The question becomes, how do we let a government not become as authoritarian? It's one thing to say, all right, you can't bring a water bottle on the plane or any sharp objects because we're afraid that there could be a hijacking, another 9/11. It's another thing to say, because of 9/11, now we are absolutely going to profile anyone who comes through TSA, and then if they look like a suspect, we're going to do something to them. We're going to take them to the back room. In order for government to not become that authoritarian, there needs to be technologies rooted within the governmental system that do two things. Number one, they prioritize civil liberties, and they prioritize who has access to the data and how they can actually see the data, which is what Palantir's technology is built to do. That is the entire functional purpose of that product in the first place. And number two, they stop bad things from happening, primarily terrorist attacks. If a government has more terrorist attacks, they feel less safe. If they feel less safe, they become more surveillant, they become more authoritarian. That is the logical syllogism you need to understand for why Palantir's products reduce that. If Palantir is stopping a government or stopping terrorist attacks from happening to a nation, which, Palantir's Alex Karp and Peter Thiel have talked about many, many times, that their products have thwarted many terrorist attacks in Europe that have stopped it from becoming very, very far right-wing and authoritarian, because the government will become more controlling over its citizens if they feel that they can't trust their citizens, then that is a product that has functionally protected civil liberties and individual rights throughout the entire nation for those citizens, without those citizens even knowing it, because many citizens don't know about Palantir and the implementation of the product inside of a government. So the interesting thing that Karp is talking about, and this really is the sales pitch, I think this is the important thing to understand as an investor, is that if your government is going to become more authoritarian, which hint, every government will be, because that is the nature of a government. They want to be more totalitarian because when you centralize all that power, that's what happens in governments. To stop that, you stop bad things from happening that gives them the excuse to justify violating individual freedoms. And I'm not some individualist libertarian maximalist here. Like I'm not super Ayn Randian about this, even though I appreciate a lot of her work. But my argument is, like, you probably don't want to violate individual freedoms as much as has happened in the past. And in order to stop that, you need to have a society that is safe. In order to have a society that is safe, you can't have terrorist attacks because that justifies the government becoming more authoritarian. In order to not let that happen, you should have a technology product that prioritizes civil liberties and stops those terrorist attacks from happening so that governments can't become more right-wing and authoritarian. And that was the argument Palantir's Alex Karp was giving to that reporter in Sweden. And I think if more people across the world, especially Western and European nations that feel scared about Palantir's product, actually understand that the company's not trying to steal your data, the company's not trying to kill you, the company's not trying to be the surveillance state. The company is literally stopping other governments from turning into those authoritarian surveillance states. Then the irony kind of becomes that Palantir is not trying to hurt you. Palantir is actively helping you by being implemented within a government because it's keeping the country safe at the end of the day. So this was a pretty cool interview by Palantir's Alex Karp and the Swedish media. Shout out to anyone from Sweden. Please comment below if you are from Sweden and you got to see this. And if you use the SVT website, 31 million times people go to that website. So if you're one of those, let me know. And yeah, shout out to Aaron Lindman for sending me this. This was super awesome that we got to kind of see something and see Palantir's perspective from a different version of the media, which is a version of the media that I've never consumed, which is Swedish media, which is why it's so awesome to get that diverse perspective and, see a more holistic view on the company being covered in the press. That's it. Thank you guys for listening and watching. I appreciate you. I'll see you in the next one.